Welcome to Stay Sparked. On this show, we explore how to stay inspired in the modern world through the most profound lessons from Burning Man, relationships, entrepreneurship, psychedelics, spirituality, travel, and more.
In this episode, we talk about surrender and how significant it can be to let go of our expectations and let go of the way we think things should be so we can be open to the magic that's all around us.
We also talk about the ways in which Burning Man has influenced our practice of surrendering and listening to the moments when we are in resistance.
And there's also, how do we recognize the flow, in which direction that's going? Because there's also always a time for us to steer the ship and time to allow the ship to travel where it may. And how do we surrender at those times when it's important to do so?
Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Stay Sparked. We are three friends here to share conversations that we aim to inspire and light you up. Thank you so much for listening. If you have been enjoying these conversations, we appreciate you leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And please feel free to share and help spread the sparks with your friends and community. I am JANUS.
And I'm Betsy.
I'm HALCYON.
I am the founder of and CEO of NuWorld Nutritionals, a nutritional supplement company with mushroom-based supplements, all geared to help improve your state of mind.
And I'm Betsy, the founder and creator of the Power Affirmation Journal and project, here to uplift and inspire and teach skills for sustainable happiness. I'm also a holistic healthcare practitioner, body worker, energy worker in Southern California, and recently termed a professional vibe bringer.
Yes. I am the author of Love More, Fear Less, Float More, Steer Less. I host the Hug Nation YouTube channel and do the Pink Path coaching program for authenticity and joy.
Fantastic. So we always love to start these conversations with a bit of gratitude. So I would like to ask HALCYON, what are you feeling grateful for in this moment?
Today, I am really feeling sparked by the springtime leaves that are budding. There is something, I get so much joy from watching a new leaf bloom. There's something about the color of a brand new leaf. It's like Kermit colored, and it just, I don't have any pets, but when a new leaf blooms, I kind of feel like I'm having a baby, and it's so exciting. So I'm feeling very, very grateful for my houseplants and all the budding leaves I see as I walk around outside right now in springtime.
That's fun.
Amazing.
So, Betsy.
I am grateful today for the little ones in my life. I have some really amazing little people in my life, soul nieces and nephews. And just recently, I got to go to a very special rite of passage for an 8-year-old girl. We held a women's circle for her as she is entering into her preteens. Yes, 9 is preteens. I can't believe it. And so her mom led this beautiful circle with all the aunties, and we got to honor her and show her what it is to sit in a women's circle. And it was just so beautiful to hold this space for this beautiful young woman who I just adore. I've known since she was born, and it was just such a gift. And so I'm really, really lit up and grateful for the little star children in my life.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That really is a gift too, at such a young age, to be like exposed to the idea of circling up with your sisters. That's powerful. That's good. Good for her. Good for you guys. So I'm feeling grateful today for movement. I got to shake my tail feather this weekend with a bunch of other lovely people on Saturday night. Despite all the stormy weather outside, we managed to make our way to a great spot and dance it all out on Saturday night, and it felt really good. It was definitely overdue to kind of get some movement going. And my experience, so always, I think I mentioned this even a few episodes ago, was just how movement can kind of shake loose whatever is like kind of being held or restricted within us. It's a good way to kind of get in your body and just shake it out, and at the end of it, you're like, yeah, I needed that. Just kind of loosen up those hips and all those joints that get stiff with stuff. So yeah, definitely grateful for dance and movement and having a body that I can move around. Yeah, that felt good. That felt good. So
Nice.
that feels like that leads us pretty smoothly into today's topic, which we are discussing the art of surrender. What does that entail? What does that look like? How is that achieved? And why is that something we would feel compelled to achieve or should feel compelled to achieve? What's it good for? So so I'm pretty sure just our experiences with our individual experiences and collective experiences with things like Burning Man and just various projects and endeavors we do have all kind of exposed us to the value of surrender. So I want to start with Halcyon. Yeah. What does surrender mean to you, and how does that fit into your world?
Well, it's interesting. For a long time, I thought of surrender as a negative word. Like surrender when you're playing with kids or in certain sports, it just felt like that means I give up. I lose. I let you be the winner or the dominant. And it wasn't until really Burning Man experiences and having my ass handed to me so profoundly that I really started to learn that, you gotta surrender isn't about giving up or losing. Surrender is about letting go of the way things should be in your mind, so that you can embrace the way it is. And it's only when you let go of the way it should be that you can start to see the gifts of the way things are happening. And then that changed things dramatically for me.
Mm-hmm.
So powerful. So powerful. Yes, I love that so much. I want to jump in because I feel like Burning Man has really taught me about surrender also. Yeah, it's the same. It's like surrendering is actually a really beautiful thing that we can practice instead of this feeling of failing or of like giving up and just like not doing anything and oh man, I'm surrendering, like white flag, you know. It's actually like opening up to something even more expansive than anything I could ever imagine. Like the art of surrender is one of the greatest gifts that I've gotten to experience in my life and also witness in people around me.
Mm-hmm.
I can jump in. Just the biggest Burning Man story about this, I just got to share it off the bat because otherwise I'll be thinking about it all our entire conversation. In 2001, I was part of a big camp, Zara, and
Oh yeah.
it was very ambitious, and our camp got destroyed. We built through Monday, Tuesday. Even as the event was happening, we were still building. We finally opened Tuesday night. Massive windstorm came and literally destroyed our camp. Metal poles flying, fluorescent lights crashing. The live sod that we had inside the camp just went flying. By the way, if you get to the gate of Burning Man and they tell you can't bring any inorganic material inside, that rule is because of us. So I'm sorry. But so this
well done.
so this massive destruction, and in the aftermath, the next day, there was two things that happened that were just profound. One was, as I was sitting there crying in the ruins, some people rode up on their bikes looking all fresh, and they're like, "Hey, where's Zara?" And I was like, "This is Zara. This is Zara." And they kind of looked at me funny and then just drove away. And I kind of looked at them like, "Where are you going? Like, why won't you stay and suffer with me?" Like, oh, why won't you stay and suffer with me? Why don't I get on a bike and go? Like, why am I so attached to the way I think it was supposed to be that I'm not allowing myself to enjoy the rest of the world? I could literally go 100 feet away and miracles and magic and whimsy would be happening. But I was so attached. I could not surrender to the vision of what I thought was supposed to happen. And so I just suffered. And then right after that, the leader of our camp came out, and as much effort as I'd put in, he'd put in way more. He's this amazing guy. And he was smoking a cigarette and he walks out, and I'm like, tears in my eyes, like shaking. What's he going to say? And he looks around and he goes, "Well, this just reminds us that it's Mother Nature that directs this play." And I was like, oh man, that is fucking surrender. That's like, okay, all right. New plan, let's surrender and figure out what's next. And I was like, oh, wow. If if you can do that as life is throwing things at you, you have, it's a recipe for untold magic that you did not know is even possible. When you could only, when you're attached to the way that you think it should be, you miss so much. So I thank you. The worst experience at Burning Man was my best experience at Burning Man.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Woo! I
Yeah.
love that story so much. You know what really stood out to me is that deep breath that you took in the moment when it was the surrender. It was like, ah, right? Because when we take a deep breath, the body softens. And when we're in that place of agitation, the body is tight and tension gets stored up, and it's like, oh, the jaw is tight and the shoulders are tight, and there's constriction for the blood flow, and then that means less oxygen to the brain, and it's more difficult to think, right? But when we take a deep breath, all of a sudden I'm more relaxed, I'm more open, the chin and the heart start to lift, and we can start to see things from a more expansive viewpoint, right? It's amazing when we can let go of the attachment to the outcome and open up to new possibilities. And the body is such a mirror and reflection of, am I in this place of surrendering, or am I in a place of holding on, right? The body is such a messenger for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is a number of school, well, certainly more than one school of meditation or a process of meditation, where the first thing they teach is how to breathe, essentially, like how to follow your breath. And so we're not going to get all into that, but that is actually a major thing. It's like, how am I breathing right now? It's like when you find yourself in a challenging situation, it, like Betsy is saying, like you're both saying, it's stop, pause, just really take at least one deep breath. Take several if you think that will help, and it does. It does help. But yeah, your breath is kind of where it starts. Kind of show you if you're holding on to such. And speaking of holding on, there's a couple of sayings that are connected to surrender. And one is the idea of that says like let go or be dragged into that, and the pain and the suffering that we experience is directly proportional or directly related to our ability or lack thereof to let go of whatever like ideas that we are holding on to about how things, as Halcyon is saying, as holding on to how things should be, or our ideas of how things should be. And this also is connected to an idea. I just had a conversation with a dear friend of mine, the idea of suffering and how they were experiencing suffering with the situation. And after talking with them for a little while, because it certainly couldn't say this right off the bat, we had to kind of take this, kind of navigate our way back to a place where I was able to say to her, even though it was the first thing that came to mind, and say like, the Buddhist idea of pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So we are going to experience challenges in this world. That's just how the world is set up. That's just reality. So that pain is going to come, it's going to happen, but how we process that, how we deal with it, whether or not we suffer is an exact reflection and mirror for how we process that. So learning to let go and just allow things to be and go with the flow is going to bring us a lot more happiness, reduce our amount of suffering, and frankly, which then leads to reducing the amount of pain that we have and experience in our lives. The question is how to do that. How do we get there? So, okay, so we got our breath down. What's next?
Well, I think
I'd like to jump in.
do it. Go, Betsy.
Got you. I'll just share a quick one that has helped me immensely. There's actually two. That one that is connected to the breath that I have found is really, really helpful is the audible exhale, right? There's something that happens in like having a sigh that comes out, right? Or like, those moments when you're frustrated and things aren't working out and we're not in the flow state, we're not surrendered, we're holding on, we're trying to let go, and we just go, ah, It's really helpful. It is a really powerful practice to get into audible exhales. And once I started doing that in my regular, not always so like agitated like, but sometimes a sigh of relief.
Mhm.
There's something that happens in my nervous system that helps me to let go. So sound is a really powerful one. And then the other one is related to what you're speaking to, Janus, around the questions, right? How do we let go? Well, just being in the question of what do I need to let go of here in this moment to feel more free? How can I let go just a little bit about this situation, right? How can I release my control? Those kinds of questions, just being in that consideration, can start to direct the subconscious mind to find the ways, right? Or even to the body. I'm holding tension in the body in a certain area. It's like, all right, how can I let go a little bit more here? And then naturally, I'm going to start to feel deeper and maybe soften a little bit more. And so just those questions are really beautiful access points to, first of all, the awareness that we're holding
Mhm.
on is big. And then to ask the question can help direct it.
Mhm.
Mm. And speaking of questions, the work of Byron Katie is a tool that I think is really powerful as far as working on surrender and letting go of attachments and letting go of the way you think things should be. She has a quote that says, "When you fight reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time." And I think that and it's like, and that idea that you were talking about, Janus, about the difference between pain and suffering. Byron Katie has this story about like when if you lose your legs and you're in a wheelchair, you're not suffering because you can't walk. You're suffering because you think you should be able to walk. And it's that pain of wishing things were different that causes the real suffering. And that's a really, that is not a aha, I get it kind of journey. It's a massive one, but the tools that she gives in the work, which is available online, lots of YouTube videos I would recommend, have been super powerful to me and continues to be powerful for me, which is another thing I want to say. Like, I think the lesson of surrender is, you need booster shots over and over and over again. Like, the universe is reminding me at least once a year in a very powerful way. Oh, did you forget? Did you start to think that you were in control? Did you start to think that you knew what was best? Well, let me hand you some real powerful humility, wham, wham. And so I think but I think the more you learn it, the quicker you are reminded. But I don't know yet how to get that lesson forever, for sure.
Mm. Yeah. Well, that's like, as you say, if you didn't get this lesson, don't worry. There's another one. There's
Right.
another one coming. So, and that's part of I mean, I just think that's part of why we're here. And that's why these lessons keep coming, because we remember and then we're good and then we forget. It's just part of the human process. So we we shouldn't beat ourselves up for stuff like that. It's like, there's certainly moments where we are absolutely on it, and then other times we forget. So we have our friends and come back to like the breath, like we say, to bring ourselves back to these spaces of knowing and this wisdom that we hopefully acquire over the course of our lives. And there is these lessons are simple. They're not easy, but it's a process. Like, there's no aha moment that you're going to be able to hold on to forever. For me, there was work when I was working with plant medicines, with ayahuasca in particular, and I got this via mushrooms as well. I'm blessed to have a connection with the ayahuasca plant spirit that we have. It's very conversational. Connection that we have. So I'll just be in this back and forth conversation with this plant. And there was one time in ceremony where she speaks to me and she says, I want to speak to you for a moment about control. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, you don't have any. I'm like, oh, well, okay. It's like, that's all. That's it. Good talk. And it's like, oh, okay.
Wow.
That's it. And it's simple and it's true. And the idea, like, well, why is this person being this way? Why is this situation this way? Why aren't I like why don't my legs work anymore? Why can't I, why did I lose the ability to use my legs, or why did I lose my legs, or whatever? And it's always so easy to turn it around to be like, well, why not you? Why shouldn't this be happening? Why are we so like, special that we shouldn't be experiencing some pain in life and all this other stuff? And so you kind of just realize like, oh, okay. So instead of why is this happening to me, it's why am I the kind of person who is bothered by this? How do I go with this? Because this is life. And we all have, every one of us has a pretty substantial, thick, deck of cards that not all of them are great. How do we play this? How do we work it? Where do we work it? The important thing, the answer is kind of in the question. Play. We're playing. This is all a, if not a game, at least this elaborate play that we all get to play a part in. And the more I realize, or more remind myself, like, okay, this is fun. There's an opportunity for fun here. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like a confrontation with a family member or a friend, or a loving relationship, or romance is going a little sideways. It's like, okay, how can I have fun with this? How can I steer this? What's good for everybody, not just good for me? But that helps me with my current partnership. We always, like, no matter how crunchy it gets, I'm able to kind of project into the future and be like, okay, so we're going to get back to this awesome space. How is that going to unfold? And automatically, it's like, all right, I'm going to just kind of allow things to kind of unfold. I have my ideas about how they could do that, but surrendering to that process and surrendering to the idea, like, things are going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And then just kind of see how that unfolds is fun. So that's something that works for me, and my ability to kind of really get into the flow of life, or the connection in general. So
So powerful, Janus. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a really continuous practice. Being in relationship is a really big training ground for surrendering and, letting go of the need to be right, especially when you're, in conflict, and surrendering our need to control. And yeah, so many gems that you just shared in there as well. And, one of the things that came up around considering this topic for our podcast today was, how do we know when is the moment to let go and surrender? And I'm like thinking about my own life and the moments where I'm like, think I'm going in one direction, but something intuitively is saying like, oh, no, like, don't go that way. Is that my ego? Is that my intuition? How do I know when to surrender my efforts to put forth, something in the world? So I had an experience in some of the work that I do where I was creating an online offering, and I was putting all this energy into it, and I was like going in this direction, and I was like having all these breakthroughs around like even just putting it out in the world, and it felt really edgy for me. And then there was this moment where it was like something was saying no. Like, no, this is not aligned. You need to let this go. And I was like, but I put all this energy into it. And it was like kind of this inner battle. And there was this moment where it was like, okay, it's time to surrender all of the efforts that you have been putting forth into putting this out in the world, and let it all go. And it was like, oh God, okay, all right. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna try that and see what happens. And I did. And then as soon as I did, I got confirmation after confirmation after confirmation that was the right thing to do. It was so beautiful, like, to get the evidence from the universe that that's what I needed to do, because it opened up this other pathway for a new offering. And I had a new client pop in that was way more aligned than all of this energy that I was trying to put into this other offering where there wasn't actually anyone to receive it. And so, without getting into the details of it, it's broad brushstroke, but it really was a test for me to listen to those little signs within myself, I could feel the tension in my body. I could feel the hesitation. I could feel the forcing something, that feeling when we're like trying to
Mm,
make something happen because we think that we should be making this thing happen, or because I've already put so much energy into doing this thing that I have to do it, even though it just doesn't feel right. And so to really come into a place of letting go of all of that, and then opening up to something new, and like, oh, it's such a practice. And so yeah, that's my most recent, like, okay, I can let go of my frustrations and my efforts to thinking it should be a certain way, and then watching how the universe starts to conspire in a way that is actually more aligned to what
mhm.
my true path is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
I think that's the one of on my T-shirt I'm wearing right now, and the part of my book is float more, steer less, and that idea of like if you are too attached to where you're supposed to be going, the tide changes, and you're fighting the tide. You're like, I got to get there. I got to get this program in the world. That's what that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and you may not tune into the fact that that's not the flow. You're fighting something. It's not going. But if you can start to float more, steer less, and then you go, oh, okay, all right, and then you start using that same effort in the direction of the flow. That's when you really start the things start working, the people start showing up,
Mhm.
the affirmations that
Mhm.
you're talking about happen. Yeah, well, I want to also share when you're talking about your relationship, Janus, about um, knowing that it's going to be okay. And I think there's something really rich in there about being okay, because you really have to surrender what being okay looks like,
Mm,
like, because, I'm big on stickers and t-shirts. I think I've established that, but I have another sticker that I put on everything that says, be present, have integrity, align with love, which, by the way, if you're listening, you get one for free. Just look at the show notes and I'll send you one. But I made that sticker because I too often would forget to surrender, and I would get so attached to what do I need to do to manipulate people, to what words do I say to get the reaction that I want, to get the place that I want to get to? How do I control the universe and the future to get what I think is supposed to have happen? And I was like, that that's a pretty arrogant position to think that I know the way things are supposed to be, when all I really can do is slow down, be present, let go, start fresh in this moment, have integrity. For me, meaning, is am I aligned with what's coming from inside versus some shoulds from the outside? And then align with love and just really tune into that flow. And then if I take the next action there, letting go of what I think I want to have happen, just what's the next action there, and then trust that everything's going to be okay. And okay could mean the relationship ends. It could mean you lose your job. It could mean, an outcome that your ego mind says, I don't want that. But you have to have faith that that is the way things are supposed to be, according to, your highest growth and learning. And even though in my moment in my life right now, I'm needing to hear this from myself, my history has shown it does always work out. It is always okay, and I am always grateful for where the flow takes me.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. The idea that the if our story doesn't have a happy ending, that means it's not over yet.
Yes.
So it's easy to kind of stay in the moment of that. And so what we've been talking about up till now is about how to, what we can do in our own lives to, kind of course correct and get ourselves to a place of, back to stability and being on solid ground with that's with our efforts and our projects and our relationships and such. What I would also want to touch on today is what to do when we're just cruising and then all of a sudden something wants to leave our world. We get evicted, or we get an eviction notice, or our place is being sold, and so we have to move. our job is our business, the business that we're working for, they're shutting down, or we're being let go or laid off, or that relationship that we're pretty happy with, we get a call and they're like, I'm not feeling you anymore. So Betsy, I'm out of here. Halcyon, sayonara. Janus, whatever for you. So how do we roll with that? How do we roll when, like, we're just cruising and all of a sudden outside forces, so to speak, are just like, yeah, I'm out of your world.
Mm-hmm.
How do we navigate that? How do you navigate that, Betsy?
I think that is a really beautiful inquiry because, yes, life happens. It really does. This is a very unpredictable world. And it's about how we respond to the life circumstances is really, for me, the most important thing, right? Because if I show up in a way that is resistant to these things, if I have this situation that arises of getting evicted or something is not going the way that I had hoped, and I could choose to be a victim. I could be, why is this happening to me? Oh, this sucks. Poor me. Then that's resistance. That's tension that is going to probably push away any good things, right? And so what I have tended to do in life situations like that is really, one, boost up my self-care. Because I know that's really important when things are stressful for me. That is like, making sure that I'm eating really well, that I'm staying hydrated, that I am making sure I'm getting my nature walks and breathing deeply, spending time with people that I care about, that I can trust to help with my mental state, right? To be able to navigate and respond instead of react. And then the other way that I have found, I think you guys know I'm an affirmation enthusiast. And so I really try and boost up my affirmations during a time like that, and really being in a question. Once again, an affirmation is also a question, right? The questions that we ask ourselves really do shape our reality. And so something like this is, we'll use the eviction as an example of something like spontaneous. I have to move in 30 days. It's like, oh, okay. All right. What are the next steps that I can take to move through this with as much grace as I can? How can I show up to this situation in ease and flow, right? Or also the question that I really love is, what do I have to learn from this situation? How can I see what the blessing is here? Right. And sometimes you can't quite see it until later, right? The eviction, for example, is like, okay, I trust that there's something better on its way to me. That is a really, really powerful one, even in the moments of going like, ooh, this hurts really bad and I have to figure life out, or my heart is aching. Okay, I can trust that something bigger and better is on its way to me. And when I get into that state and remind myself that on a regular basis through it all, then that opens up the space for manifestation to occur. Right. Whereas the flip side, if I'm like, man, this sucks. Why does this always happen to me? Gosh, this is going to be horrible. I'm probably going to have to I'm going to have to be homeless for a while, or I might have to move to a really cheap part of the world and I'm never going to be able to, make it. It's just like affirming, and then creating more things to be worried about. And so the affirmations have really been medicine for me to be able to get through hard times, and not to bypass, but to really use affirmations to focus, really, and to stay on track, right? It's not to, cover up the fact that I might be feeling grief or sadness or frustration, but to just really keep myself in check.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a great question. I am neck deep in processing some loss right now, and I'm really leaning into the potential for growth. I feel like I have the tools to get back to where I was, and I have the tools to return to the baseline that was a pretty awesome life for myself. But as I'm in a space of rawness and exposed potential for growth, like whether this, I'm trying to see what could I learn that I've never learned before? Who could I listen to that I never listened to before? Um, can I be humble enough to recognize that there's a lot more for me to grow into, and what's at stake? And so I have something on my wall right now that says, "What's at stake?" And I have in big letters, "Reaching my potential in relationships, career, impact, and integrity." And so when I think about that, I'm fighting the instinct to complain. I'm fighting the instinct to go back to an old pattern, and I'm trying to surrender and have faith. To me, faith is a huge part of this equation. Like, even in the moment when you're like, I don't see how this could be good, I don't, it's, well, I have faith. I have faith that if I look at the history of my life, that's one of the joys of aging, is that you get more and more examples. Like, okay, I didn't see how it could have been good then. I sometimes will ask people, have you ever been broken up with and you say, "No, don't leave. I can't leave without you." And then 3 years later, you're like, "Oh my God, thank God they're not in my life anymore. Thank goodness that I've moved beyond that." But in the moment, you don't know it. And so it's having that faith that, I'm deep in these lessons, and I can lean into my wisdom of my life, and then leaning into the wisdom of others. So I'm like saying yes to anybody I know and trust that says, "You should try this, you should try this, you should try this." I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it. Hook me up to the electrodes, shock my system, slam me with a crystal, whatever you got, I'll take it. Let's learn, let's grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those crystal suppositories are real good for getting getting in line. See, Betsy knows. Virtual crystal,
Yes.
right in your bean. So yeah, and what you guys are speaking of is the idea of the idea of change, which we all understand that change is the only constant. We get that, we accept that, until it gets applied to our lives. And then it's like, no, this thing is that I like this thing the way it is. It's like, no, I don't want this to change. It's like, it's always changing. Our lives are always evolving. We are always growing and becoming, this ideally better version of ourselves, this constantly improving, like fully realized potential of ourselves. And so, getting to that place of security within ourselves, that there's no empty spaces in our lives. And I think that's where we have a lot of resistance to, when things come up like, "Oh, you have to move in 30 days, or this relationship is over, or this job that we're frankly enjoying, we don't get to do that anymore." So, and I think what upsets us most is the idea of loss, like something is being taken from us. But we also are familiar with the concept that nature abhors a vacuum. Like, there's no empty shelves in our life. There's no empty tables. There's no empty spaces in our lives. So when something is leaving, be assured that it is going to be filled with something else. And as a friend once told me back in the day, the universe has a better imagination than we do. So when we get out of our own way and be like, okay, this thing is clearly wants to leave, let it go, send it off with love and with the knowledge and understanding and faith that the universe is then going to hand us something that is so much better. Or at least better for us, better for our growth, better for us to realize our potential with. Because there's a lot of things like, "Oh, I love this place I live in." But it's easy for, a bit of stagnation to come into our lives, and we're in it, so we don't really see it. But a lot of times when I look back on my life and I look at things that have, forced change has been like put upon me, oftentimes there was a level of stagnation that I was not present to, or it was simply me repeating another lesson or another experience that I outgrown, frankly. And looking back on it, it's like, oh yeah, that relationship was just like kind of a repeat of a thing that I wasn't happy with the first time. So it's good to be like, all right, release, allow that something better, because what's coming is 99.9% of the time something better. So allow that thing to come in and experience the results.
Absolutely. So true. I am feeling so sparked by this conversation. Such good reminders. And I really want to just highlight just something that both of you really spoke to. Halcyon, you're speaking about we're always growing, right? We're always growing. And to be able to receive the support if we're stagnant, right? Because Halcyon or Janus, speaking to that stagnation or feeling stuck, it's like if we are always growing, but there are moments of feeling like, oh, I know that there is a growth edge there for me, knowing when to actually reach out for the support that's here, right? Because we don't have to do it alone. And sometimes it really is important to have somebody in our lives, whether that's a practitioner or a friend or something that can help to dislodge our whatever might be stuck in the field, right? And to be able to come back to that place of knowing that we are supported and that we are in the flow of the universe and that the universe is conspiring in our benefit, right? To come back to that place of knowing like, oh, okay, I can actually let go a little bit more and open up to new possibilities and see beyond my limited perceptions of the past and really connect to that place of surrender and flow and manifestation and expansion. Expansion is the word that just keeps coming to me as we're talking about this conversation of surrendering, right? It feels like that. It feels like that widening of perception, widening of awareness, as this expansion of our perception, the more that I can just let go of what I think I know about myself, what I think I know about the world, what I think I know about you or other people, and just keep letting go and seeing so much more when I let go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of you never know if you're in advance or retreat. There's that famous Zen story about the farmer who finds some horses. A wild stallion brings it back to his stable, and the neighbor's like, "Oh man, you're so lucky!" And then he goes, "Well, good luck, bad luck. It's hard to say." And then, as his son is trying to tame the horse breaks his leg, the son's leg, and the neighbor goes, "Oh man, you've got such bad luck." Good luck, bad luck, hard to say. And to shorten the story, then when the army comes to town to recruit all the young men to join the army and fight in the war, the young man is passed over because he's got a broken leg. The neighbor's like, "Oh my gosh, you got such good luck." Farmer, good luck, bad luck. It's hard to say. Yeah, and that idea of our current suffering could be our future gift, or actually, you can probably guarantee it's your future gift if you find the right lesson in it. And I think that it requires surrender, and with a practice, you can get even in the suffering, you can find the surrender and let go of that suffering part where you say, "I wish things were different." Like, actually, I don't know. Who's to say if this should be different? And as all the things you guys have shared, like I could be being spared. I could be being led to something far greater. And just that little change in mentality can make the current circumstance so much more beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The idea that we don't know what's coming because we simply like our five senses or even our sixth sense, our intuition can only reach so far. So we never quite know how things are going to unfold for us, but they are going to unfold to our benefit. And having that trust and surrender piece available to us allows, like, we can't control the stuff that's coming our way. We can control like how that impacts us, how that affects us, and how we're able to move forward from that. That's what we're talking about when it comes to surrender, is to not let these things just weigh us down and become this weight that we're carrying. It's like, okay, this situation happened. How do I roll with that? Okay, so and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in another future episode. But just releasing that weight and just trusting, having faith. That's these two words, these two charged words. But our lives are definitely enriched by both of these concepts of faith and trust. They both lead to surrender, and when we allow things to come and go, bad, good, who's to say? Ultimately, the fact that it's kind of neutral tilts everything slightly to the positive. So I think this universe is geared for the positive. So I ever so slightly, but leans toward the positive. So we just kind of have faith in that, trust in that. We'll find ourselves overall pretty happy with where we're at. So, so yeah, Betsy, want to kick us off or send us off, I should say, with
the final spark
affirmation. Although, yeah, final spark, please.
Yes, I definitely have I have a lot of sparks from this conversation. I feel like we could keep going on this one, but I think the spark that's actually getting ignited for me is that I'm just feeling so lit up by having this conversation with you guys. And how this podcast started was because we were having these really cool conversations at parties and at gatherings. And what's alive for me is like sparking a conversation about surrender at a gathering. Like I can just imagine what it would be like to see you guys at a party and say, "Hey, you guys want to talk about surrender? I'm curious. What's your take on that?" And so I feel like I'm really feeling like, wow, okay, how can I continue to ignite these kind of deep conversations with the people that I love beyond this podcast and be a little instigator for you guys listening out there? How can you spark a conversation about something like surrender into a gathering of friends, right? Where are some of these deeper layers of insight for you in the conversations that you're having with people? Right? Because we all have these different perceptions, we have different experiences. As you know, we're getting to share our own perceptions and our own stories. I feel like that this can create a ripple of inspiration out there. So that's my spark from today, is to instigate some more sparks out there for you guys.
Instigator. Ooh.
Let's see the instigator again.
I want to close with my final spark is just a line from chapter 30 of the Tao Te Ching, and it says, "The master understands that the universe is forever out of control, and that trying to dominate events goes against the current of the Tao." Now, I ain't no master, but I appreciate that reminder over and over again. So, float more, steer less.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, and the idea of knowing when to. I'm just reminded of this scenario of knowing when to, expend effort to get what you want, and then to go with the flow. I was just suddenly reminded of a quick incident where I almost drowned, trying to swim a little bit beyond my means, and being told before I even went out that as you're coming around this point back into the cove, there is going to be a current that pushes you, and then it's going to pull back. The time for you to swim is when it's pushing in. I completely forgot that as soon as I got out there, and I'm out there just but I'm doing this while moving backwards half the time, as opposed to just floating, moving backward, float, move forward, stroke, stroke, stroke. And there's always an ebb and flow in life, and knowing when to stroke and knowing when to relax is going to potentially save your life. So so being aware of the flow and proceeding accordingly is a good reminder for all of us.
Love that.
So awesome. I love that. Thank you so much, JANUS.
Yeah.
So inspiring, you guys. Well, how can people out there find your work in the world? Why don't we start with you, HALCYON?
Thanks, Betsy. I am offering free Zoom gratitude circles every day, and I do a live stream every morning. I'm also starting up a new batch or gathering or group for my Pink Path coaching program. All those links are available at johnstin.com. How about you, Janus?
I've got my nutritional supplement company called NuWorld Nutritionals, offering nutritional supplements, mushroom-based supplements to improve one's state of mind. You can take these for reducing symptoms of anxiety, depression, ADHD, helps with your focus, memory, learning ability, also all sorts of good things, all things neurological based. So you can find us at newworldnutritionals.com. Use the code SPARK for 10% off of all of our products.
Amazing. And for those of you that want to learn more about what I'm up to, you can check me out on finklehoo.com or poweraffirmation.com, where you can learn about some of the work I do, which I teach skills for sustainable happiness. I work with clients one-on-one in person, doing body work and healing work, and also virtually empowering men and women to be able to live in a more consistent, steady, joyful place. And I also love getting to help plant trees around the world. So the Power Affirmation Journal plants trees with Eden Reforestation. And of course, find me on Instagram and Facebook and all the socials. Love to stay connected with you guys out there.
And all of those links are available in our show notes.
Well, I'd love to actually, close us out with an affirmation.
Now time for
Yeah,
affirmations.
this affirmation is actually very dear and near to my heart. It's one of the affirmations that I have memorized. I wrote it down, I printed it out, I memorized it. I modify it slightly from time to time, but this one is really about surrendering. And so if you like, you're welcome to write it down. You're welcome to memorize it. You're welcome to just close your eyes and repeat it or listen, let these words just wash over and through you. And so taking a deep breath. I trust with quiet and calm confidence. I trust with quiet and calm confidence in the divine timing and the divine unfolding. I trust with quiet and calm confidence that the universe is conspiring in my highest benefit. I trust with quiet and calm confidence that the universe is conspiring in my highest benefit. I trust with quiet and calm confidence that the universe is conspiring in my highest benefit. I'm exactly where I need to be in every single moment. I trust that. I trust with quiet and calm confidence. So it is. Stay sparked, beautiful listeners. Thank you so much. Janus and HALCYON. So grateful to be here with you guys.
Thank you both. Love you guys. Thank you for listening, everyone. And remember, if you like this, leave us a review. Make sure you tell your friends. And we'd love to know if there's topics that you want to hear about. You can always send them our way, and we would love to involve you in these conversations.
Stay smart, people. Yeah, I need a Betsy massage, and I need a halcyon lunch as well. Not that I wouldn't like a Betsy lunch, but
Or a halcyon massage.
All right, maybe we
or
can
a
do
halcyon
that.
massage.
How about I will feed you food as Betsy? Never mind.
I like where that was going.
Ooh, are we recording this? This should be the opening to the next week.